On this week's episode of Hot Takes with Drakes, I'm going to go over an issue, one that hits especially close to home. And that claim is that James Harden is one of the, if not the most, overhated player in the NBA. Since entering the league in 2009, James Harden has proven himself statistically as one of the greatest offensive players the game has ever seen, especially in this modern era where the three ball reigns king. But despite giving NBA fans nothing but entertaining games and some of the most memorable basketball over the last few years, with games like the 60-point triple-double in the Garden, or some of the best iso ball the league's ever seen, the step back or the Euro step, these moves that he's kind of reinvented in his own way. But despite all these things, it seems like most NBA fans, if they aren't a Sixers fan or Rockets fan, despise the guy. And in this video, I'm going to attempt to go over three of what I think are the biggest issues I always see brought up when debating him, and talk about why I think they're such poor attempts at knocking a guy who's done nothing but be an absolute show night in and night out for NBA fans. My first point is the most famous one, the Shaqtin' a Fool moments and everything in between, is that he doesn't play defense. I'm not giving this point too much time because it's pretty worn out, but I'm going to address it regardless. He averages 1.5 steals a game. You know, that's not terrible. It's nothing to write home about. But again, with the load he carries on offense, it's just like the Steph Curry thing. Steph Curry's not a great defender either. He's had a career of getting Clay switched on to guys, Draymond getting switched on to guys. I just don't understand why some guys are okay if they don't play defense because they're just cool, and some guys don't get that same benefit. And I love his style of defense because it is lackadaisical, just like how all of the basketball he plays. It almost doesn't even look like he's fully trying to do anything. Like it's so fluid and natural to him. It's like those swipes, the you reach, I teach type adage. I feel like doesn't apply to him because he doesn't. He just tries to stay in front of him. And the one steal I always think of, I'll put up a picture, is that when DeMar DeRozan was on a fast break and he wasn't even looking at the ball and he just pokes it out. And I don't know, I just always thought it was pretty funny. And then what I think is one of the more underrated part of his game is his post defense. Now, being a 6'5" guard, he's very good at just using his size effectively, especially if guards try to body him. It's one of the reasons they try to switch him on a pick and roll to get a bigger guy on him, because usually guards, he just is really good at guarding, especially if they try using their size in the post. In 2021, he had the second best points per possession on post defense of any defender who was posted up at least 12% of the time. To throw in just some more numbers, again, I know some people this doesn't mean much, but still, just some that I think are quantifiable, is that he has a career defensive plus or minus of 1. So, hey, that's 1. I mean, that's better than negative. He's a net gain on defense by that metric. And again, he can score on your best player, or he can assist just as efficiently. He's also a very good rebounder. So I think he just adds so much value. It's guys like Steph Curry and Devin Booker. We kind of give them write-offs for not playing defense, but for whatever reason, James just gets beat up for it. The second point I have to bring up is his dip in production over the last few years outside of this year. People really just gave him a lot of crap, especially when he was on the Nets, for being off. And again, we say off, he averaged double-digit assist numbers and over 20 points a game. But again, that's how high regard James Harden is held in, but he's not kept, is that a 2010 season was a letdown. You know, everyone again went to, he's washed. And I really just think, more than anything, he was tired, banged up, and needed just a sort of reset, because Harden has only played under 65 games in the regular season twice in his career as a starter. And that was both years he was on the Nets. A large part of this dip in production, I think, was these injuries. His hamstring was all sort of messed up, but he still kept playing in those games, in those playoffs game against the Bucks, because he really wanted to contend. He wants to win. I mean, Kyrie misses because it's too humid, and KD was, again, being KD, playing very respectably. James Harden was at least there trying to help him, and he played through these injuries, and I think it's harmed him over these last few years as he's tried to get right from that. And I think now, seeing him this year put up the numbers he's put up, he just looks so much better and so much more clean. He's been able to score when he needed to. He's been driving a lot more to the bucket. He's finally getting back, and it's now the wash rumors just went away, but no one makes apologies. They're just like, okay, on to the next thing, right? It's just, and again, so many players get passes, but I feel like for whatever reason, James Harden didn't. And even though he's starting to bounce back, people don't give him the credit that he deserves. He missed the All-Star game this year over Drew Holiday and some other guards who I think were not putting up nearly as good of numbers as well as impact on their teams as he was. Harden has never had a major injury as well. So learning to balance this rehab in basketball was probably a new thing to him, especially at the NBA level. And with how great he's been his whole career, I think it's more than fair to say he deserved the benefit of the doubt all that time. Now, the last point I'm going to go over is one that you still hear today. And that is the James Harden rule, his effectiveness at getting to the line and wrapping up people in his shooting motion to get fouls. NBA fans know Harden, Trae Young, guys like that, Luka, Joel Embiid, love free throws. And they've gotten so good at initiating contact even when it's almost not there. And people complain that this trying to get to the line to get these free shots and, get a breather is, boring and it slows down the pace of the game for worse and all of this stuff. Okay, if you want to say that, if you think that's a fair argument. Now, to pull up some numbers here, I'm going to bring up my top 5 shooting guards of all time. No particular order, just 5 guys who I think are the best at what they did. And that's MJ, Kobe, D Wade, James Harden, and Allen Iverson, okay? And I think it's fair that those guys all are some of the best offensive shooting guards of all time. Not even questionable, really, in my opinion. These are what a shooting guard should be, right? They are going to score effectively and efficiently, make it to the line, and score on whoever they want, whenever they want. I'm going to put up the amount of free throws these guys all shot per game averages. And I'll let you take a second to guess while I'm finishing up this point, and just think who you think what that order would be between MJ, Kobe, D Wade, Harden, and Iverson. All right, so now that you've had time, you either pause the video or whatever, or you didn't and you just want to see. Starting in last is D Wade, and honestly, this makes sense. He was especially good at scoring, but he didn't necessarily have that same. He didn't need as big of an inside presence with the guys he had around him, so I think that's fair to say. And then I feel like this guy would have been higher, but in 4th is none other than Kobe Bryant at 7.3 free throws a game. I thought a lot more, but I guess later in his career, he wasn't initiating contact as much, so that kind of makes sense to me. Now that we're in the top 3, this is when we see them all noticeably jump. And coming in at 3rd, again, this one was not as surprising, but MJ at 8.2 free throws a game. That is a lot. Even as he got older, he still kept up those numbers. And then in 2nd, James Harden with 8.7. And then in 1st is Allen Iverson with an absurd 8.9, almost 9 foul shots a game. So my next question, did you enjoy watching those guys play basketball? Well, if the answer is yes, there's no reason to say that Harden was fishing for them more than any of those guys were. They went into the paint knowing and understanding, I'm so good at basketball, they have to foul me, because having to take 2 shots for a bucket is a lot more guaranteed than these guys making every open shot. So even though people are going to complain, well, James Harden does it inorganically and he's trying to force. You don't think those guys were trying to go for free throws when they were driving in the paint knowing they're going to get clobbered? I just think that's a non-starter and not a valid argument to say they weren't trying to get free throws more than each other. And guess what? We'll physically never know, so it's all speculatory how often they actually were trying to get the foul. Obviously, everyone's trying to make every shot and make it look like a real shot, but I just think to say that Hardens are different or that they're undeserving or whatever, I just think is ridiculous. And even then, now there's a rule against things like that. And so he still gets crap for the free throws he shoots, even though there's now rules in place to try and prevent what him and Trae Young did. These guys' goals as shooting guards, as efficient, elite scoring shooting guards, was to get to the basket and get points. Getting to the basket by foul shots is the same 2 points that a layup is, a mid-range jumper is, a layup off the glass is. It's all the same at the end of the day. Well, I hope you learned something in this video. I think the most interesting thing to me was the free throws per game. That really surprised me, especially with AI's insane 9 free throws a game pretty much, as well as Kobe only attempting 7.3. I thought that was a little weird, but regardless, I just hope this video helped you gain a little respect for James Harden, because I feel like he's so trashed and I feel like he just doesn't deserve that. So again, just opening up the question to you in the comments below. Do you think I'm right? Or do you think Harden has given us the reason to disrespect him and harp on him for these same 3 big issues? And be sure to let me know in the comments. Be sure to like and subscribe. Again, just like last video, I'm going to link in the description my podcast with me and my friend Wilson. We talk about the James Harden issue in quite a few episodes. So if you enjoy my content and you want to see more, that's a great way to do it. But yeah, that's all for this video. I'll see you guys next time. Peace.